Boldwood presents Killing Eve, Resurrection, written by Luke Jennings and read by Lucy Patterson. Chapter 1. Oxana stirs. She's lying against Eve, facing the shoulder that Eve has drawn forwards, as if folding a wing around herself. Their bodies are close enough for Oxana's breath to agitate Eve's hair, and for her to smell the warm, biscuity smell of Eve's skin. Eve's an uneasy sleeper, drifting precariously on the tide of night. Sometimes she speaks, voicing half-formed questions that trail into silence. Now, in the Sunday morning quiet, with the early sunlight showing between the curtains, the rise and fall of her breath is calm. Oxana moves forward, so that her nose is pressed to the warm furrow at the base of Eve's skull, and her lips are against the nape of Eve's neck. She touches her tongue to a tendril of fine hair, takes it between her teeth, and tweaks it. Eve protests, shifting weakly against the pressure of Oxana's body. Oxana pulls harder, then opens her mouth and bites Eve's neck. Gently at first, but then tightening her grip so that Eve sighs and her back arches, and she whispers, "Babe, stop." But Oxana does not stop. She trusts me. She knows what I am capable of, and still she trusts me. Konstantin, my former handler, used to chide me for my recklessness, for the chances I took in the execution of my kills, but I never did anything as wild as offering myself night after night to an apex predator. She tells me she loves me, and I murmur, "Yes, my pchelka, I love you too." Of course I'm good with language. Brilliant, actually. My love, my Detka, my sweet girl, my Eve. I deploy these words easily, and seeing her eyes soften, part of me is convinced that I mean them. She trusts me. She knows what I am, and still she trusts me. She bares her throat to me, allows me to part her feathers. She's my pigeon, my prey. The apartment is on the 4th floor of an anonymous apricot-coloured block in St Petersburg's western suburbs. It overlooks a 4-lane highway beyond which the expanse of the Gulf of Finland extends to the horizon. At the rear of the building is a small park, once part of the estate of a Grand Duke. There's an ornamental garden, a long dry fountain, and a ruined greenhouse overrun with bindweed. Oxana runs here most days, following the paths between the spreading chestnuts. It's June now, and the overgrown lawn is dotted with daisies and wild violets. She's tempted to lie down on the grass, to close her eyes and simply breathe in the scent of the summer morning. But she has to keep going, to maintain her endless shark-like patrolling. It's when you feel safest, Konstantin used to say, that you're in the greatest danger. Alongside the highway, Oxana pushes herself harder, and as she lengthens her stride, her breathing settles into a 4-count rhythm. Warm air streams to the right and left of her, supporting her like an oncoming wave. She's a goddess, a huntress, Artemis, running with her hounds. She's on the road bridge now, her Nikes pounding the ironwork. Eve was tight-lipped when she saw the cost of the imported shoes, but Oxana didn't care. "I put up with so much that is third-rate, like the furnishings in the flat, thin curtains, threadbare carpets, the sofa that emits a gust of ancient fart when you sit on it, and the bed, like something from a porn set. These things infuriate me. Given half a chance, I would burn the place to the ground. I deserve better, the best, like I had in Paris." Everything's so much easier for Eve because she basically has no taste. When we're shopping for clothes, I'm constantly steering her away from disastrous choices. "But it's such good value," she protests, clinging to some drab horror, and I tell her that if she goes ahead with the purchase, I will move out forever and she will die alone and unloved. And finally, reluctantly, she shoves the hanger back on the rack. Because deep down, she's terrified of suffering just such a fate. She told me so while lying in my arms, and I used the knowledge to torment her. Cruel, I know, but she's my creation. Mine to hurt as I choose. Oxana comes to a halt by the sea. There are no ships on the horizon, no birds in the air, just a vast grey-brown emptiness. The only sounds are the whisper of traffic on the highway and the hissing of shingle as the small waves break and recede. She stands there, a faint breeze cooling her sweat-damp arms and back, the flat sky, the featureless vista, the endless regularity of the waves. All this seems to mirror her life. For 18 months now, following the assassination of the Russian and American presidents at the Bolshoi Theatre, a coup engineered by Vadim Tikhamirov, who succeeded the murdered Valery Stechkin as president and executed by Oxana, she and Eve have been lying low, leading barely visible existences under false identities. To begin with, this was an adventure. They were alive and they were together, and after the brutal horror of the previous year, this was more than enough. At night, they clung to each other, partly for warmth, partly out of incredulity that life had somehow delivered them to this safe harbour. At breakfast, as they sat in front of their tea and toast and vrenya, the sharp red berry jam that Oxana remembered from her childhood, their eyes would meet in wry triumph. Against all odds, they'd escaped from their old lives and made a new one, together. In the daytime, they did ordinary, civilian things, working, shopping, and taking scarf-wrapped walks around the frozen suburb with its 19th-century parks and waterways. They took bus trips to the Nevsky Prospect to spend a quiet hour or two in the House of Books, which was always well heated in winter, or to walk by the steel-grey Neva River. When they met their neighbours on the apartment stairs, nods were exchanged, or occasionally formal greetings, but it never went further than that. The building's other occupants gave the impression of having lived in the place for years, of being locked as securely into their unknowable lives as they were into their apartments. For the last few months, Eve has been working for an online translation bureau. She works from the flat and has never met her employers, who are based in Moscow. The work is grindingly dull. Company reports, legal notices, and technical manuals, but Eve never complains. "It's a job," she says, "and we need the money." Oxana nods and agrees and tries to appear supportive, but it's not a role she has much experience of. Sometimes she watches Eve for a minute at a time as she works. Eve's typing is fast but laboured. She taps away with 4 fingers and her lips slightly parted. "What?" she asks eventually, sensing Oxana's gaze, and Oxana shakes her head, unable to make sense of the rush of exasperated tenderness that she experiences on these occasions. There's so much she can't explain, like how mysterious she still finds the entire landscape of feelings and expressiveness. If she cares so deeply for Eve, and she does, why does she sometimes behave so spitefully towards her? She's stitched together a patchwork of responses that serve her from day to day and enable her to mirror Eve's love as best she can, but they don't begin to conceal the emotional blankness that's always waiting, always threatening to reclaim her. Love, as an abstraction, mystifies Oxana. It's the physical details that twist her heart, the softness of Eve's skin and the delicacy with which it folds over her bones, the fine double crease at her throat like the strands of a necklace, the traces of care and hurt in her face. "She thought I was dead," Oxana reminds herself, "and I let her think so." That she can't erase the shocked sadness behind Eve's eyes distresses Oxana and contributes to the awkward tangle of frustration, irritation, and longing inside her. To show willing and to demonstrate her commitment to their new life, Oxana has registered at St Petersburg University, where she has been studying for a linguistics degree. She has no deep interest in the subject, nor any particular intention of completing the course. It's just something to do while she's waiting, although she has no idea what she is waiting for. All she knows is that something will present itself, as it always has, and that things will change. Meanwhile, every weekday, she takes the bus to the city centre. Her walk from the stop to the university takes her past boutiques and luxury department stores, Celine, McQueen, Pafyonova, Chloe, and as Oxana marches by in her supermarket jeans and sweater and knockoff North Face jacket from the Udelnaya market, she feels a quiet fury. Beautiful things were once hers for the taking. They're not completely broke. Every month, a modest amount is paid anonymously into Eve and Oxana's joint bank account in return for the parts they played in the president's ascent to power and for their continuing silence. It's enough to live on, but not much more. Every couple of weeks, they allow themselves a treat, a visit to the grand but chilly Aurora Cinema, followed by pureshki buns from a street stall. Oxana has taught herself chess. Hyper-competitive in all things, she's taken to the game with a vengeance. She watches online tutorials for hours on end, immerses herself in classic texts by Silman, Kasparov, and Alekhine, and plays late into the night, clawing her way up the online rankings as Red Queen 666. It's an escape from the tedium of her days. She finds undergraduate life insufferably boring and passes the time in class flirting with her teacher, a pretty young academic married to a deputy in the Duma. This does not escape the attention of her fellow students, who regard her with sullen, jealous dislike. Oxana doesn't care. She has no time for any of them. Hair-trigger Gyalya, forever taking offence, Olga with her smug veganism, Andres with his insufferable virtue signalling. They strike her as spoilt, entitled children, not serious people at all. Oxana has managed to keep her frustration under control, but now that the winds of spring have given way to the warm scent of lilac, a kind of madness has overcome her. She wants a whirlwind to roar through her life, and she wants to be that whirlwind. Lowering herself to the beach, she holds a plank position until her abdominal muscles are screaming, and then plants her fists in the stones and punches out 100 press-ups. Standing, she picks shards of broken shell from her knuckles, licks the blood off, and jogs back towards the road. She sees them a second or two before they see her. A man and a woman sitting on a stone tomb in the park. He's lean and dark and 30-something. She's older and almost translucently pale. There's an air of expectancy about them, a coiled pose. Neither moves, but their gazes lock onto Oxana, and she's suddenly certain that these are not civilians, not ordinary people at all, but inhabitants of the Mir Tene, the shadow world of kill and counter-kill. In that moment, she feels relief. The time had to come, and now, here it is. The woman holds out an engraved card, Apocalypsis, an address on the Gribaedov Canal embankment. "A club?" Oxana asks. "The club," the man says. "Opening tomorrow night." The woman smiles. "It's very exclusive. You'll feel right at home." "Exclusive means gangsters and prostitutes," Oxana says, meeting her gaze. "Not my scene, sorry." The man inclines his head. "It's not that kind of place. It's discreet. Invitation only." "So why me?" He shrugs. "Instinct?" "Plus," the woman says, "you might enjoy yourself." "Oh, really?" Oxana feels her calf muscles stiffening. "Just come," the woman says. Oxana pockets the card with a shrug and jogs towards the park's exit without looking back. Her stride is unhurried, but her mind is racing. There are 1,000 reasons I can't tell Eve about this invitation. She'd say don't accept, it's dangerous, an obvious trap. She'd view my wanting to go as a betrayal, even though she must have been expecting something like this because she's far too smart to think that what we have here, the flat, the penny-pinching respectability, the whole happy ever after, is anything other than a mirage. The truth is that I have no choice. The game, whatever it is already underway. Sorry, baby. Chapter 2. Pushing open the door to their building, Oxana winces. That momentary whiff in the stairwell of drains and boiled cabbage, the smell of her childhood. She runs up the stairs. In the apartment, Eve is making pancakes. Oxana takes 4, spoons on Varenya, and devours them. "These are good," she murmurs. "Is there some coffee?" Eve gives the pan a shake. "Do you mean have I made some coffee?" "Obviously." "No." She flips a pancake. "And don't give me that look." "What look?" "That wide-eyed look you put on when you want something. You're not Princess Diana." "What's she got to do with anything?" "She specialized in those looks." "You think she was like me?" "I was like 6 when she died, but apparently she was super manipulative." "Are you going to make me some coffee?" "No, my love. You are." "Ah, right. Okay, so where's the—" "Oxana, don't be useless. You know where everything is." "I don't, because you put stuff in weird places. You hide things." "Oxana, but that's okay. The kitchen's your space. I respect that." Eve closes her eyes. "So Diana was a psycho." "That's not what I said." "You said she was like me." "I didn't. And you're not a psycho anyway. Not in the classic sense." "No?" Oxana touches her thumb to the angle of Eve's jaw and traces the course of her jugular vein. Eve twitches. "You can be very sweet and loving when you choose to be." "How do you know I'm not just pretending?" "Are you?" "What do you think?" "I think there are some things you can't pretend." "Like?" "Well, when we—"
"When we what?"
Oxana locks her arm around Eve. "Show me." "Babe, I'm cooking." Later, they're sitting on a bench in the English park in Petersburg, overlooking the lake. It's late afternoon, and the day has clouded over.
"Have you noticed anything strange lately?"
Oxana asks.
"Anything out of the ordinary?"
"Like what?" Eve says.
"Like, I don't know, people watching the flat."
"Why do you ask? What's happened?"
"Nothing. Nothing's happened."
"Oxana, tell me the truth."
"That is the truth. Nothing's happened. I just think we should be careful."
"We are being careful. Also, we're being protected by Tikhomirov's people." Oxana nods. She doesn't say what they both know, that Tikhomirov has enemies, that he will not last forever. A breeze passes through the trees, shivering the surface of the lake.
"All this,"
she says,
gesturing vaguely, "is it enough for you?"
"You're enough," Eve says. "You're a lifetime project."
"Me apart, though."
Eve looks at her. "You're in a very strange mood today." A pair of ducks land on the lake, and the reeds at the water's edge sway as the ripples reach them. Perhaps the ducks know something that Eve and Oxana don't, because it begins to rain, lightly at first, but soon thunderously. Hand in hand, the couple run towards the park's exit. Eve, ever prudent, has brought a waterproof jacket, but Oxana is immediately soaked to the skin. She looks up at the steel-grey sky, exhilarated. There's a burnt, metallic smell in the air that reminds her of gunfire. Chapter 3. Saturday is laundry day. There's no washing machine in the flat, so Eve and Oxana load the dirty clothes into the supermarket shopping bags and carry them the half-mile to the Comfort laundromat. The weekends are busy, and there's usually a wait for a machine and a place on the wooden bench. Oxana is not one to abide by the Comfort's unspoken protocols. She's faster on her feet than the old babushkas who make up the bulk of the clientele, and has become expert at darting to a machine the moment a spin cycle slows to a halt, hovering aggressively as the previous user unloads their wash, then speed-loading the drum with the contents of her own bags.
"Babe, really?"
Eve murmurs as the babushkas glower and mutter.
"Babe, nothing,"
Oxana says, pulling her phone from her pocket.
"If I left it to you, would be here all day."
Probably true, Eve concedes. But Oxana is already lost in her latest chess game, so Eve takes out her Victor Pelevin novel. They sit on the bench, which gets harder and harder beneath them as the machines chug away. They can't get up and go for a walk because someone else would instantly take their places. Besides, there's nothing to see outside except a depressing parade of shops. Halfway through the cycle, there's a loud knocking from one of the washing machines. This becomes a grinding, and then the machine lurches to a halt. The woman next to Oxana, who has been glaring at her since Oxana beat her to one of the functioning machines, starts to mutter incomprehensibly.
"Sounds like a bearing's gone," Oxana says. "They never service these things."
The woman nods, content to switch her hatred of Oxana to the laundromat's proprietors.
"I heard the owner's connected to the gangs,"
she stage whispers as a dumpy figure in a tracksuit starts listlessly kicking the afflicted washing machine.
"That's his wife. Apparently, she was a bandersha when he met her. She ran a whorehouse near the Vasily Sokolovsky cargo port."
"Is that your washing in that machine?" Oxana asks.
"Yes,"
the woman says.
"I'm going to get the bandersha to wash the whole lot again, then dry it for free."
"How long will that take?" The woman shrugs.
"Who cares? I like it here."
"I hate to break this up," Eve says, "but our stuff's done. We need to get home." As they walk, each carrying a bag of damp clothes, it starts to rain.
"Babe,"
Oxana says, pulling her hood up.
"Angel, could we, just once, dry our stuff in the dryers?"
"No, it's a rip-off, and those dryers never really get hot. The people who run that place are complete gangsters."
"Apparently they actually are gangsters."
Oxana switches the bag to her other hand.
"But you know nothing ever dries in the flat. It just hangs there looking damp and depressing, which doesn't make for a super romantic vibe. Moja luba mia."
"Talking of romance," Eve says, squinting through her rain-spattered glasses. There's that bottle of Krasnodar sparkling rosé I've been saving." She squeezes Oxana's free hand.
"We could... I'm really sorry, babe."
Oxana touches the tip of her tongue to the scar on her upper lip.
"There's a student thing tonight. Everyone's meeting for a pizza. I thought I might go."
"But you're always saying how annoying you find those people."
"I know, but Nastya's going to be there. I don't want to think I'm an elitist bitch and fail me."
"You are an elitist bitch."
"Nevertheless."
"So where is it, this thing?"
"That place in Kavinsky Lane."
Eve is sure something's up. She spotted Oxana's tell, that furtive flick of tongue to lip. She's definitely lying, and Eve's certain that if she were to ring the pizza place and ask if they were expecting a student party tonight, they would say no. But she's not going to ring Kamora or question Oxana further. There would only be a fight. She's going to wait until Oxana goes out, open the sparkling wine, put her feet up, and spend the evening watching Players Luby, the latest TV dating show. Oxana bites her lip and avoids Eve's eye. I instinctively lie to her. It's exhausting, to be honest, as if we're locked into an unending game of chess. She still fascinates me, though. I want to eat into her like a wasp into an apple, to hollow her out and control her. But she's too adroit, too clever. Sometimes it feels as if she's the one playing me. Oxana dresses for invisibility. Jeans, t-shirt, trainers, ponytail. In the hallway, as she pulls on her jacket, she can hear the plink-plink of the rain dripping from the leak in the kitchen ceiling into a saucepan. In the front room, Eve is curled up in an armchair in front of the TV, a bottle and a glass on a table beside her. On the screen, a tearful young woman is staring at her reflection in a makeup mirror. Touching a tissue to her dewy lashes, she fans her face with her free hand.
"He was licking her tits," she whispers, falteringly. "I feel so disrespected."
"Wow," says Oxana. "Intense." Eve pauses the TV and looks up. "Go, have fun. I won't be late." She smudges a kiss onto Eve's cheek. "It's fine. Do what you have to." "Right." Oxana zips up her jacket. Eve inclines her head, watches Oxana with narrowed eyes. "Don't you understand? It's the lying that hurts me," she says. "Do you really not get that?" Oxana stares at her for a moment, expressionless, and walks out. As the latch snaps shut, she hears the sound of the TV remote control shattering against the wall. "Shit," Eve hisses, just audible through the door. "Cunt, bitch, fuck, shit." The rain stops as Oxana gets onto the bus to central St Petersburg. She feels giddy, reckless, intoxicated by possibility. In the past, she hasn't much enjoyed going to nightclubs. As an environment, they're too uncontrollable, and she's not one to abandon herself to dance music. But after all these months of vigilance and austerity, she feels like being spoilt. She's hungry for the touch and feel and taste of luxury. It's a 5-minute walk from the stop on Nevsky Prospect to the Griboyedov embankment. Near the Demidov Bridge, Patriot and Tiger SUVs disgorge sharply tailored men and willowy, disdainful women outside a canopied doorway. The rain has stopped, and the evening air is muggy, exhaust fumes cut with the tang of cologne. As the men greet each other, the female guests pick their way across the wet cobbles like high-wire artists, tiny handbags swinging. Photographers wait in the shadows, alert to the possibility of an inadvertently exposed nipple or thong. Ponytailed and inconspicuous, Oxana watches this unfolding ballet with interest. I know myself in every sense superior to these long-limbed tёlki with their pillowy lips and affected, far-focused gazes. Mine is the truer beauty. If God exists, and recently I have come round to the view that he does, then he made me as I am because that is how he wants me to be. I am his creature and he loves me. There is something profoundly corrupt about these overfed, overfucked, overprivileged civilians spilling from their huge, ugly vehicles, and looking at them I feel myself as luminescent and as pure of heart as the sword-bearing archangel in the icon that I bought in the street market. It was only a cheap thing, a printed reproduction, and Eve, poor sweet, was mystified. She didn't understand that, as my idiot fellow students would say, I felt validated. Oxana strolls towards the club entrance, where she's stopped by a security guard. "Invitation," he demands, placing his considerable bulk in her path. Oxana shows him the Apocalypsis card, but he shakes his head, and there's a moment's standoff. The pale-skinned woman from the park appears in the doorway. She's wearing a black cocktail dress adorned with silk straps and gilt buckles, at once fetishistic and chic. Oxana stares, momentarily transfixed by the soft scoop of the woman's throat and the delicate modelling of her collarbones. She gives Oxana a quick, sharp smile and nods to the guard, who steps back deferentially. "Follow me," she murmurs. They descend to a mezzanine. Below them, guests are circulating in a high-ceilinged space washed with rose-coloured light. Uniformed staff move amongst them, dispensing flutes of champagne. There's an animated buzz of conversation overlaid with the smooth whisper of lounge music. "I've missed this," she thinks. "I've missed this." The man is waiting at a table in a curtained alcove. He rises, hand outstretched as they approach. "I'm glad you came," he says, taking in Oksana's casual attire at a glance. "It was the right decision." Oksana smiles obliquely. "Let's see." "Absolutely. I'm Max, and you've met Maria." His Russian is flawless, but some faint inflection tells Oksana that he is not a native speaker. He raises a hand, and a waiter brings a silver ice bucket. In it lolls a bottle of 2012 Mercier champagne. Oksana's eyes narrow a fraction. In Paris, vintage Mercier was her drink of choice. The waiter uncorks and pours. "Santé," Maria murmurs, fixing Oksana with an unfathomable gaze. "À la vôtre," Oksana replies coolly. There's brief small talk, the cold April winds which lasted well into May, the reappearance of pavement cafes on the bank of the Neva, the upcoming White Nights festival. Maria says little, but watches Oksana as intently as a sparrowhawk. Oksana, meanwhile, waits as Max circles around the reason that they are all here. "You know who we are," he says, eventually. "I've no idea." "We are who we've always been." He touches the label of the champagne bottle, partly covering the date of the vintage so that only the figure 12 is visible. Oksana affects not to notice this reference to the organization which, some years earlier, recognizing her peculiar talents, sprang her from prison and transformed her into a professional assassin. "And who is that?" she asks. "You know who we are, Villanelle." She does, but it's still a shock to hear her former code name spoken out loud. "So this is the new face of the 12. Suave, fashionable, and not at all the type I once knew. Old-school intelligence professionals like Konstantin who were happy to live invisibly and die in secret. There's a confidence about these two, a sense that they're ready to step from the shadows, to claim the world as their own, and they want me back. They need me. We have a proposition." Max glances at Maria, who leans in closer. "Paris," Maria says softly. "You must miss it so much." "Tikhamirov is finished," Max says. "It will end badly. It's just a matter of time, and then there will be a reordering for which we are positioning ourselves." Oksana gazes at the crush of avidly conversing guests just meters away. "So what do you want from me?" "What we've always wanted, Villanelle." Maria's small hand covers Oksana's. Her fingers flutter softly, almost absently, across Oksana's knuckles. Chapter 4. Max pulls the red damask curtains closed, concealing them from the other guests. He speaks swiftly. "There's a man, an American, massively but mysteriously wealthy, named Ron Tiberius. He has residences in New York, London, Cape Verde, Telluride, and St. Barths. He's a personal friend of some of the most powerful and influential men in the world." "Not women?" Oksana asks quietly. "No, not women. For reasons that I'll get to." He glances at Maria, who remains inscrutable. Even in super-rich circles, Tiberius is known as a generous host. His guests, and we're talking heads of state, media proprietors, billionaire entrepreneurs, those kind of people, get the very best of everything, but wives and girlfriends tend not to be invited. The junkets he organizes are very much boys' events, with Tiberius providing the female company. Nothing out of the ordinary there, but there's a bit of an age issue with the girls. Tiberius is in his 50s, but he likes them young, and so, it seems, do many of his guests. Oxana sips her wine. People like Tiberius deal in favors. Influence is his currency. He's already got all the money anyone could want. An introduction here, a blind eye turned there, and of course, from time to time, pressure must be brought to bear on someone, and that's a lot easier to do if you've observed the other person dallying, shall we say, with a trafficked 16-year-old. I can imagine. Max nods. Now, this club, Apocalypsis, is owned by Lev Leonov, one of the younger oligarchs, very much on the make. It's the sort of place Tiberius likes to prowl in search of fresh meat, and we've been reliably informed that he'll be making an appearance here tonight as Leonov's guest. We wanted you to have a good look at him. If you're leading up to what I think you are, me staring at him from a few meters away wouldn't be very clever. He wouldn't register you. You're too old to be of interest to him. Maria smiles. Max, that's not very polite. It's true. How does he get access to all these young girls? Oxana asks. He has this woman, Mirtha Willis. She was some kind of media trainee for the British Conservative Party, and they had an affair. That came to an end, but Mirtha decided to stick around and make herself useful. So now she's his official date on the occasions when he needs one. But her main job is scouting for girls. Tiberius owns or part-owns several film and TV production companies, and she holds that out as bait. Oh, Ron would love to meet you. He's always looking for fresh faces. And she's a woman, so they trust her. Shall we dance? Oxana is taken by surprise. Seriously? Seriously. Take my arm. Let's check out if he's here yet. They sidle through the throng to the spotlit dance floor, where Max is clearly in his element. Relax, he tells Oxana, placing a hand in the small of her back. Dancing's a conversation, not an argument. I'm not a natural, sorry. Don't you ever go out on the town? Like with your girlfriend? Oxana stiffens. It's the first mention of Eve's existence. Not really. But we dance together at home sometimes. We've got a playlist. Why she says this, she doesn't know. It's certainly not true, but the thought of them swaying cheek to cheek, Eve's eyes closed in trustful surrender, is so poignant that it makes her catch her breath. I'm sorry I've upset you. No, just itchy eyes. Gets me at this time of year. So what music do you guys like? All sorts. Lana, Taylor Swift. And this, at least, is true. Eve loves to sing as she moves around the flat, doing stuff. Oxana finds it impossible. Okay, I have eyes on our guy. You're 3 o'clock, tall, silver hair, with the girl in the jeans and the woman in blue. Scene. Oxana regards Ron Tiberius dispassionately. He would be handsome, distinguished even, but for a repulsive little up-twitch to his mouth. His gaze lingers on his dance partner, a reed-thin teenager, as if she were a gourmet snack. The woman, smiling vacantly, is swaying at the girl's side, driving her closer and closer to Tiberius. Enough, Oxana says. I know how this story ends. Back at the table, Maria is on her phone. As Max and Oxana take their seats, she places it face down on the linen cloth. So? He's here, Max says, and so's Mirtha, sheepdogging some babe for him. Well? Maria turns to Oxana. Well, what? Will you do it? You're way ahead of me, Oxana says. Really? She reaches for Oksana's hand again. Oksana snatches it away. Why should they trust you?
You're blown. If we can see you, so can others. Tekamirov's people are desperate, making deals left, right, and center. We can fly you out of here.
What about...
Yes, we'll take care of Eve too. But first you've got to commit to this assignment.
Everything would be how it was? My flat? The money paid into my account?
Everything would be how it was.
And my liaison?
Would be Max.
Like...
Yes, like Konstantin. Except that you killed Konstantin, and we'd prefer that you didn't kill Max.
Max smiles at her affably. I could even help you with your dancing. You could even fuck right off. But I'll tell you what I'll do. She turns to Maria. Is the number station still transmitting?
Yes, round the clock.
Same frequencies and schedules?
Uh-huh.
Max looks wistful. I love all that old-school spy stuff. I'm such a Cold War nerd. The greatest sadness of my life is that the Berlin Wall fell the year I was born.
Maria smiles. Max gets very sentimental after a few drinks. In fact, we've gone back to a lot of the older tech because online communication is so insecure. So we still broadcast number codes from our shortwave station.